The scene transitions to a few moments earlier, amidst the bustling activity of the camp. Soldiers toil away, fortifying their positions, while Duke Agnes, alongside his trusted advisors Robin, Chiffon, Joshua, and Babel, huddle together deep in discussion, mapping out their strategies against the looming threat of the monsters. Suddenly, Viscount Vigo comes charging towards Duke Agnes, his urgency palpable as he questions the decision to halt their march and set up camp so perilously close to the forbidding expanse of the Black Creature's forest. Vigo's concern is clear. The vulnerability of their exposed position could invite a sudden onslaught from the monsters. Robin, observing Vigo's skepticism, can't help but feel a pang of frustration. He knows all too well that Vigo's priorities lie solely in his own interests, regardless of the larger dangers at play. Duke Agnes, in response to Vigo's inquiry, can't conceal his disappointment. It's evident to him that Vigo hasn't been paying attention. With a keen understanding of the forest rhythms, Duke Agnes explains how the monster's behavior is dictated by the time of day and lunar phases. Nightfall sees them pouring out of the forest like a flood, and under the crimson glow of a red moon, their ferocity knows no bounds. Yet, Duke Agnes knows there's a more pressing concern lurking beneath the surface. As the intervals between the monster attacks grow shorter, spreading fear among the citizens, Duke Agnes addresses Viscount Vigo's concerns. With night approaching, visibility will soon dwindle, rendering any attempt to engage the monsters futile. Duke explains that given the impending darkness and the monster's inevitable surge, there's no necessity for the soldiers to venture into the forest. Vigo, impressed by Duke Agnes's foresight, expresses admiration for his insight. Duke, in turn, urges Vigo to take charge of setting up the camp, confident in his understanding of the situation. With a respectful acknowledgement, Vigo agrees to the task. Meanwhile, Duke instructs Joshua and Babel to remain vigilant at their respective posts. They acknowledge his orders without hesitation. The scene transitions to the depths of the forest, where Joshua and a group of soldiers gather wooden sticks. As they amass an ample supply, the soldiers suggest returning to camp. Joshua, however, insists they proceed, allowing the soldiers to depart first. Joshua finishes gathering a few more wooden sticks, and as the soldiers depart, reminding him to return on time, he sets his burden down and calls forth Lucia, his faithful companion. With a sense of urgency gnawing at him, Joshua knows this might be his only opportunity. Determinately, he sets off toward the heart of the forest, unaware that Viscount Vigo is stealthily observing his movements from afar. In the world of magic, there exists a coveted artifact known as the Genesis Stone, a wondrous item imbued with the power of creation. Legends speak of Genesis stones for each elemental force: water, fire, wind, lightning, ice, and beyond. Yet, only 5 of these legendary stones have been discovered, their true potential still shrouded in mystery. Possessing the ability to elevate first circle magic to the potency of third circle spells, the Genesis Stone is a prize sought not only by magicians but also by knights seeking unparalleled power. Recalling rumors of a Genesis Stone hidden within the deepest reaches of the Black Creature's forest, Joshua presses onward into the darkening woods. With each step, the shadows deepen around him, yet his resolve remains unwavering. If he can just locate the Genesis Stone. As Joshua presses deeper into the forest, the allure of the Genesis Stone beckoning him with the promise of control over his overwhelming power. An hour passes, and Joshua begins to wonder if he's getting any closer to his destination. Yet, a persistent feeling nudges him forward, urging him to continue his journey. Suddenly, a surge of pressure grips Joshua, and his senses sharpen as he catches sight of a formidable black ogre looming ahead. Quickly ducking into hiding, frustration courses through Joshua as he realizes the path to the forest center is blocked. Knowing the ogre's immunity to most low-level magic and the formidable challenge it presents to a mere novice, Joshua assesses his options. Recalling the solitary nature of black ogres and drawing upon past experiences, Joshua formulates a plan. With Lucia charged with energy as in previous tests, he believes he can swiftly dispatch the ogre. However, he's aware that getting within 10 meters risks detection. With determination, Joshua strategizes a bold leap, aiming to strike down the ogre in a single decisive blow. To Joshua's astonishment, the black ogre's roar is accompanied by an overwhelming surge of pressure, leaving him bewildered by its origin. Before he can fully comprehend the situation, the massive creature materializes before him, poised to strike. Startled, Joshua realizes he must evade the impending attack or face certain death. With reflexes honed by instinct, he narrowly avoids the ogre's devastating blow, which shatters the ground upon impact. Sensing an opportunity amid the chaos, Joshua swiftly dashes to the opposite side, putting distance between himself and the menacing creature. As he flees, his gaze catches the crimson glow of the red moon, a foreboding sign of heightened danger. Realization dawns upon him. Confronting the black ogre head-on would undoubtedly lead to his demise. With a quick decision, Joshua chooses stealth over confrontation. Seeking refuge, he ascends a nearby tree and settles onto a branch, aiming to conceal his presence entirely. Recalling the teachings of his old friend, the Assassin King, Joshua employs techniques learned long ago. Instead of channeling mana directly at a target, he focuses on masking his presence entirely, relying on cunning and subtlety to evade the beast's notice. Joshua concentrates intensely, manipulating the mana to cloak his body as if merging seamlessly with the objects surrounding him. With each passing moment, he becomes one with his environment, his breath stilled, and his awareness fading. The Black Ogre looms closer, its gaze sweeping over Joshua's concealed form. Miraculously, the ogre passes by without detecting him, leaving Joshua both relieved and amazed. Seizing the opportunity, Joshua breaks into a sprint toward the forest center, though the strain of maintaining his invisibility taxes his body. His progress halts abruptly when a tree branch gives way beneath his weight, sending him crashing to the forest floor. His senses reeling from the fall, Joshua is confronted by a horde of goblins closing in on him. Aware of the imminent danger, Joshua's smirk betrays a hint of excitement as he decides to put his abilities to the test. With practiced precision, he unleashes his magic spearmanship, employing the second form, Gust, to devastating effect. Goblins fall before him in rapid succession, felled by his swift strikes. Despite his success, Joshua takes a moment to catch his breath, his mind racing with self-criticism. He knows he has yet to fully master the second stage of magic spearmanship, despite his impressive display. Joshua grapples with frustration as he realizes he can't muster even half of his usual power, a limitation imposed by his youthful body. Yet, he knows he can't afford to linger in his current state, especially as he observes the monster's trajectory, set to intersect with the camped-out knights imminently. Time is of the essence, and Joshua understands he must swiftly locate the Genesis Stone and join the ranks of the knights. Meanwhile, at the campsite, chaos erupts as a goblin ambush catches the knights off guard. Babel springs into action, engaging the goblins in fierce combat alongside his fellow knights. Among them, Cain's prowess with a blade stands out, his movements fluid and precise. Babel, impressed by Cain's skill, marvels at the unexpected talent within their ranks, recognizing him as a formidable warrior of at least C-rank caliber. Amidst the flurry of battle, a voice cuts through the din, drawing their attention. As they pivot to face the threat, the knights are met with the daunting sight of a vast horde of goblins. The sheer magnitude of the enemy force prompts urgent whispers among the knights, who recognize the necessity of a strategic retreat. However, before they can act, Chiffon emerges from their midst, his voice cutting through the tension. Chiffon's command is unwavering as he declares severe consequences for any who dare to flee. Rallying his comrades, he orders the Crimson Knights to form a steadfast line, preparing for the inevitable clash. With a resounding call to arms, the knights brace themselves for the impending battle. As the horde of monsters surges forward, the clash erupts in a cacophony of steel and fury. Babel dispatches several adversaries with precision strikes, while Cain's blade dances with deadly grace, claiming its own share of foes. Meanwhile, Chiffon channels his inner strength, infusing his sword strikes with a radiant aura that cleaves through the enemy ranks. Despite their valiant efforts, Chiffon is disheartened to witness the unending tide of monsters pouring forth. The appearance of the Red Moon, anticipated for midnight, has come prematurely, casting an ominous glow over the battlefield. In the midst of the chaos, Chiffon's keen eyes spot a formidable black ogre, launching vicious attacks against his fellow knights. Knowing that only a knight of B rank or higher stands a chance against such a foe, Chiffon resolves to confront the ogre head-on. With unwavering determination, he charges towards the creature, aiming to dispatch it with a single decisive strike. However, his confidence is shattered when the ogre effortlessly swats him aside, sending him crashing to the ground. As the ogre turns its attention to the fleeing knights, panic sets in among the ranks. Stunned and bewildered by his defeat, Chiffon struggles to comprehend what went wrong. Amidst the turmoil, Duke Agnes emerges from the shadows, his presence commanding and reassuring. With calm authority, he admonishes Chiffon for losing his composure and assures him that he will handle the situation. Standing firm before the horde of monsters, Duke Agnes unleashes a devastating slash of his sword, effortlessly cleaving through the enemy ranks with unparalleled skill. Witnessing Duke Agnes's display of power, Chiffon is awestruck. In a single stroke, hundreds of monsters are vanquished, leaving no doubt in his mind about the true extent of Duke Agnes's legendary prowess, the power of one of the continent's esteemed 9 stars, Master Duke Agnes. The scene transitions to Joshua, who stands amidst the fallen monsters, his gaze drawn to a gaping hole in the ground. With a solemn expression, he calls out a name, Bronto. Suddenly, a potent energy surges from the depths of the hole, and amidst the pulsating glow, the Genesis Stone emerges, responding to Joshua's mana with an undeniable resonance. Meanwhile, back at the campsite, Duke Agnes towers triumphantly, having decimated the horde of monsters single-handedly. Babel watches in astonishment, struck by the display of power. Viscount Vigo remarks on Babel's potential, attributing it to the noble lineage he shares with Duke Agnes. However, Vigo acknowledges that despite Babel's talents, this is his first encounter with such overwhelming prowess, hence his surprise. Concern arises as Viscount Vigo realizes Joshua's absence. He queries Chiffon, who admits he hasn't seen Joshua either. The revelation prompts a sense of unease among the gathered knights. Viscount Vigo's concern echoes through the camp as he speculates on Joshua's whereabouts, suggesting the possibility of him attempting to fend for himself. The knights share his worry, realizing they haven't seen Joshua for some time. Unease settles among them as they ponder Joshua's stark differences from Earl Babel. Duke Agnes interjects, commanding their attention back to the ongoing battle. His authoritative presence compels the knights to refocus, feeling the weight of his aura bearing down on them. With Babel leading the charge and the knights rallying behind him, they launch a coordinated assault on the remaining monsters, their confidence rising as they make headway. However, their progress is abruptly halted as a horde of black ogres storms into the fray, bolstering the monsters' ranks. The knights find themselves pushed back, forced into a defensive stance against the relentless onslaught. Despite their efforts, the ferocity of the black ogres proves overwhelming, striking down several knights with devastating efficiency. Chiffon, observing the chaos, realizes the challenge they face is far greater than anticipated. Yet, amidst the turmoil, he senses an aura of unparalleled strength looming on the horizon. In a dramatic entrance, Joshua appears soaring through the air, unleashing a thunderous bolt of lightning that strikes the black ogre squarely in the head, eliciting a dazzling display of power. Chiffon and Viscount Vigo stand in stunned disbelief at the sight, while Duke Agnes watches with a proud smile gracing his lips. As the smoke clears, Joshua stands victorious, having felled the formidable black ogre with a single decisive blow. Chiffon can hardly believe what he's witnessing, a mere C-rank knight defeating a black ogre, heightened by the Red Moon's influence, at twice its normal strength. Frustration tinges Viscount Vigo's voice as he questions the sudden appearance and timing of Joshua's intervention. In his opinion, Joshua must have been hiding until the opportune moment, and he attributes Joshua's success to Duke Agnes's support. Urging Locke's knights to assist Duke Agnes, Vigo emphasizes the critical role played by timing in Joshua's feat, despite acknowledging Joshua's talent as an earl. After all, in Vigo's eyes, Joshua remains a C-rank knight. As the Locke knights engage the remaining ogres in battle, Joshua feels a surge of determination. No longer content to be underestimated, he resolves to show the knights what he's truly capable of. Aware that pushing his limits might lead to exhaustion, Joshua trusts in Duke Agnes's support if needed. Leading the charge, Joshua taps into Bronto's power, his compatibility with the entity allowing him greater control. Yet, he remains uncertain how much strain his body can endure. Undeterred, he launches himself at the nearest ogre, unleashing his Thunderbolt wind skill once more. With a resounding strike, the ogre falls, but the exertion takes its toll on Joshua. Breathless and weary after utilizing Thunderbolt twice, drained from the immense effort. Yet, despite his fatigue, a sense of satisfaction washes over him, knowing he has proven his worth to the knights. On the other side of the battlefield, Viscount Vigo and the soldiers stand in astonishment as they witness Joshua's remarkable feat, felling the black ogre with a single strike. They know well the formidable nature of the ogre, impervious to all but the most powerful sword auras from B-rank knights. Speculation ripples among the knights, perhaps Joshua is a magic swordsman of extraordinary skill. Observing Joshua standing tall amidst the aftermath, Duke Agnes marvels at his resilience. He recognizes Joshua's determination to conceal any hint of weakness. Armand approached Duke Agnes, conveying his admiration for Joshua. It seemed logical to Armand that the Duke would be vigilant regarding Joshua's actions. Inquisitive, Duke Agnes inquired about Armand's perspective on Joshua's prowess. Armand, viewing Joshua through the lens of a magician, notes the complexity of his techniques, suggesting capabilities beyond even a third-class master. In Armand's eyes, Joshua possesses the potential to reshape not only the country's fate but that of the entire continent. Suddenly, Joshua reaches his limit and collapses, just as the black ogre prepares to strike. With lightning speed, Duke Agnes rushes to his aid, dispatching the ogre with a single decisive blow, sparing Joshua from harm. In that critical moment, Duke Agnes's swift intervention saves Joshua from certain peril. As Joshua's eyelids parted, the sight that greeted him was one of chaos, Agnes' duchy palace ablaze against the night sky. He struggled to grasp the reality of what lay before him. Hovering in an ethereal state, Joshua's mind began to reconcile the scene as a dream. Yet, the deafening explosion shattered any semblance of tranquility, plunging him into a maelstrom of doubt. His gaze fixated on Babel emerging from the inferno, wounded and vulnerable. A wave of foreboding washed over Joshua as he contemplated the fate of Agnes Duchy, an event prophesied to unfold a decade hence. Bewildered by the vividness of the dream, Joshua pondered its significance. Could it be a glimpse into the future, propelled by the enigmatic powers of Bronto? The notion of precognition loomed large, amplified by the mystical aura of the Genesis Stone. Joshua marveled at the untapped potential of such ancient artifacts, even surpassing the knowledge of revered magicians from the illustrious Magic Tower. A sudden gust roused Joshua from his contemplation, prompting him to question its origin. Before he could ponder further, his attention was drawn to Babel's perilous encounter with an assailant. A figure emerged, a young woman, accompanied by a celestial blue lion. Poised in defense of Babel. Joshua's astonishment deepened upon recognizing the girl before him as Anna Grace, her presence accompanied by the dignified wind sea lion spirit. Although memories of Anna had been elusive to Joshua until this moment, the unmistakable presence of the sea lion solidified his certainty. There was a connection, a past entwined with Agnes Duchy and Anna. Contemplating Anna's appearance led Joshua to surmise the involvement of her enigmatic mentor. Babel's dialogue with Anna remained veiled to Joshua's ears, as if a shroud of silence enveloped him, hindering his perception. Suddenly, a figure materialized before Babel, cloaked in swirling smoke. Despite Joshua's efforts to approach and decipher the conversation, his senses remained ensnared. Yet, intuition guided him to identify the mysterious figure as Anna's mentor. Drawing closer, Joshua caught a fragment of Babel's words, questioning Anna's belief in Agnes Duchy's vulnerability to a mere crossbreed organization. A smug grin played across the mentor's features in response, igniting intrigue within Joshua's mind. As the sea lion surged forward, its momentum crashing into Babel, Joshua finally caught a glimpse of the assailant's face. Frustration clawed at him as recognition dawned. It was Draxia Grace. Yet, before Joshua could process further, a blinding light enveloped him, and he awoke in his bed, breathless, his voice echoing Draxia Grace into the stillness of his room. The vividness of the dream lingered, prompting Joshua to ponder its nature. Was it merely a dream or something more prophetic? As he attempted to rise, pain coursed through his body, a reminder of the rigorous training in magic spearmanship. Joshua contemplated his progress in magic spearmanship, convinced that he had advanced to the second stage following the initial phase. However, he couldn't help but notice that the current second stage of magic spearmanship resembled the pinnacle skills of a C-rank knight. Despite this, Joshua couldn't dismiss the power he exhibited against the monsters with his magic spearmanship. He speculated that with such capabilities, he might even stand a chance against early-stage B-rank knights. This phenomenon likely stems from Bronto's possession of the Thunderbolt attribute. Furthermore, if the precognitive dream ability is another facet of Bronto's power, it underscores the importance of delving deeper into the Genesis Stone. Suddenly, Duke Agnes appeared beside him, as he remarked, "Isn't it interesting? The Crimson Moon, once a looming threat that seemed poised to engulf the entire world just hours ago, now bathed everything in an exquisitely beautiful moonlight." Joshua, absorbing this transformation, found himself at a loss for words. The Duke broke the silence, informing Joshua of their imminent journey to the academy upon returning to the duchy. As the Duke reiterated Joshua's altered identity as the scion of the fallen Frederick Viscounty, a noble endeavor to restore the tarnished legacy, Joshua acknowledged the gravity of his new role. His response was measured, expressing understanding. Joshua recognized the wisdom in embracing a more subdued role, steering clear of the relentless scrutiny that came with being at the center of attention. Prioritizing the recovery of his strength from his past life took precedence for Joshua. Duke Agnes, however, injected a note of intrigue into the conversation. With a somber expression, he disclosed that Joshua had uttered an interesting name in his sleep, Draxia Grace. Duke Agnes, his curiosity evident, pressed Joshua to explain how he came to know such a cursed name.